Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads. It's currently -4 degrees. It's very cold. There's snow on the ground. It's gonna ice today, but I need to go out to the library because my books are here and I want to read them, so I need to go and get them. So let's go out in the snow and pick up some books and then come home where it's warm and there's hot chocolate. That sounds like a plan. I am back from the library and I have a sack of books. I actually really enjoyed my walk to the library. It was cold. It was very, very cold, but my jacket was really warm, my boots were waterproof, my gloves were warm. What more could a girl ask for? I have, however, come upstairs because I really want to get some cozy socks because my feet are kind of cold. I'm going to pop these odd socks on and get warmed up because it's been a couple of hours since I've gotten home and I'm still a little bit burr in the feet situation. But that's just because when I took my boots off when we were home, I stood in the wet snow that we had tracked in and left in the hall. So that's my own fault. Anyway, books. I got 4 books and I think they all will help me towards my 2025 reading goals. I have Burning My Roti by Sharan Dhaliwal. This is a non-fiction about growing up as a British Punjabi woman, and it has Little Ribbon, which is always enjoyable in a book. I have Soul Sisters by Leslie Loco. This fits the criteria of Scottish fiction. It is about 2 childhood best friends who travel to Johannesburg with a boy. It seems like there is some sort of not secret connection between the 2 women, but they're definitely hiding something about what bonds them together. I don't remember too much else about this. Most of these books have been on my TBR at the library for years, so don't remember too much about it, but this is on my list and I got it. Your Driver is Waiting by Priya Guns. This is about a person who it's basically about kind of privilege, really. We have one character who is doing all of the jobs they can, trying to, scrape together all the money that they can, and they kind of form a relationship with somebody who doesn't have to work nearly as hard for those sort of resources. That's, again, all I know about this book. And Becky by Sarah May. This is set in the 90s. This book, I didn't know what books I wanted to get this month, but I knew I wanted to get 4 and I knew I wanted to get Becky. It's set in the 90s amongst the sort of magazine pub journalist environment and drama. There will be drama and there will be chaos and there will be maybe a little bit of gossipy gossip. That's what I'm hoping for. I did not mean to only get orange books, but all of my books are orange and I'm okay with that. Maybe I will get all of the same colour of covers next time I get a library haul. I don't know, that's something I did not think about, but I'm going to think about now. I also got myself a treat in the form of these. Barbecue Walker's Crisps. I have loved these since the Spice Girls when they were on the cover of Walker's Crisps, and I feel they should still be on the cover of Walker's Crisps. I saw these in the shop next to my library last year, bought a packet, didn't stop thinking about them, didn't go and get another packet, just thought about them. So I bought myself a packet now and I'm gonna go eat these downstairs with my cozy socks. And I might start one of my books now. I'll start something and I will come back with updates when I have them. Please ignore how just chaotic my background looks. I was gonna sit and film this, but look at my son. And by son, I obviously mean look at the cat who belongs to the lady next door. He's asleep quite peacefully on the spot where I normally sit to film. So I'm here, and there's boxes behind me, and my desk is in disarray, so I'm kind of standing to hide my desk because it's an absolute riot. I have finished a book, Soul Sisters by Leslie Loco, and I do not believe I said what any of these books were about because I didn't really know and I kind of forgot. This book focuses on two kind of soul sisters, as they call themselves. They are not related, but they were basically raised as sisters and kind of think of themselves in that way. We have Kemi, who is originally from South Africa, moved to Edinburgh as a young teenager, and we have Jan, who same age, basically born and raised in Edinburgh, and we get to sort of follow their lives together, and they're super, super close. And Kemi wants to go back to South Africa to kind of see the country that she doesn't really remember, and for her to kind of reunite with her parents that she hasn't really had too much of a relationship with. There's also a little bit of a love story in this book, which I hated. The book was okay. I'm saying this a little bit after I finished it, and I'm feeling a little. My rage has been somewhat diluted, but this book enraged me. Originally, I was giving this book 2 stars, but I moved it down. I gave it 1 because I got angry at it. So, first of all, I feel really bad because when I don't like a book, somebody's worked really hard on the book. I don't want to be like, oh, I hated it, and I've never published a book. So, you're already way better than I am, far more accomplished. Don't listen to me. But if you want to know my feelings on this book, I did not like it, but I wanted to. I feel that this book covered 90 years, and there were 90 chapters. However, a good 2/3 of this book took place over like a 15-year time span. And I feel like the earlier chapters in like the 1920s and the 1940s, the book could have lived without them. I got a whole big list of characters who I didn't really need to know about because there were so many chapters and so many jumps between time. I felt like I never really got to know any of the characters, and every time something really interesting was going to happen, suddenly there's a time jump. Like a huge event happened, and then 5 years later, did nothing happen during that time period? Because I think things were going to happen. And I feel like I've had this before with another book, and I just cannot remember which one it was. But I remember somewhat recently reading a book and feeling like everything exciting happened between the chapters. And that's kind of what I felt with this book. I wanted to like the characters. I wanted to love that sisterly bond, but I never got to experience that, and I never got to really get to know the characters because there wasn't enough time given to them. And as lovely as it is to know what people are wearing, I mean, I love to know what a character is wearing. One of my favourite fan fictions is My Immortal, where she basically just lists clothes from Hot Topic for about half a chapter. Love it. Unironically, I love it. But I felt like I never got to know these characters. I don't know, in any way other than a surface level. Brilliant surgeon, brilliant neurosurgeon, a struggling artist. That's kind of all I got to know about them. There was a love interest, which I hated because I didn't buy it. So I didn't really know the characters that well, but I got to meet the love interest, Solam. And I don't know, like maybe it was left out of the book that he like farted diamonds or something, because I don't know why anybody liked him. He was instantly arrogant and cocky, and I just struggled to see why why people were really into this, because his attitude and his demeanor, I was like, there's no amount of attractiveness that you can have to offset an unpleasant personality. And Jan, Kemi, they deserved a good personality. I think. I don't know. I didn't really know them, but I feel everybody deserves that. I had one huge issue with this book, and it wasn't the time jumps. Their trigger warning, there was SA in this book, and the way it was handled made me, if I owned this book, if this wasn't a library book, I probably would have thrown it across the room in a rage. But it's a library book, and you have to respect the library book. But the way it was handled was just horrific. It was glossed over. The victim was made out to be the bad person in this scenario, and the bad person in this scenario, no repercussions, no guilt, no remorse, nothing. And the events that happened immediately after this, because there was a time jump, I struggled to work out, well, what was the logistics behind that? How did that happen? How did we go from one thing all the way here? I just felt there was a lot missed out on this book. The writing was gorgeous though. Like, the writing style, I would read more books by this author. I just didn't like this book. All throughout the book, there was a sort of promise of a big reveal is going to come, and we're going to find out why this book has spanned 90 years. Why, what this secret history is that links these characters. And, well, there was a reveal, but it didn't explain anything, and I feel kind of gross having read what that reveal was. So, not the best experience with this book, but do not fear, there are more books, and hopefully I will get a winner. I'm gonna not pat the cat because he's sleeping, but I'm gonna just enjoy being near him. I will be back with an update in a little bit. I finished Becky, like Sarah May, and I really liked it. I gave this 4 stars, and this is my library receipt, so I'll pop that back in. This focuses on Becky Sharp, who is, we meet her in the late 80s, but the majority of this book takes place over the 90s, and she has a dream of being a journalist and is willing to do whatever it takes to succeed. She is kind of hiding a few secrets from her past and lives almost in like constant fear that those secrets are going to come out and she's going to be revealed, her true self is going to be revealed. It took me until halfway through this book to realize this was a Vanity Fair retelling, or loosely inspired by Vanity Fair. The characters, I was like, why are these names familiar? Here I am Googling, and lo and behold, all of the main characters in this book share their names with the characters in Vanity Fair. I haven't seen Vanity Fair, I haven't read Vanity Fair first, and I haven't seen the film since like 2004, like when it came out. So that didn't take away any of my enjoyment because I didn't really remember what happened. So I could sort of buckle in for a very enjoyable and very fast-paced story. I loved that this book focused on 3 main news topics in the United Kingdom. 3 like massive scandals, if you will. We had a scandal surrounding a beloved princess and rumours of her interactions with a jockey, an equestrian guy. We then had a missing child, a very, very tragic story surrounding the missing child. And then came the phone hacking scandal. And at this point, I was still convinced that this book was based on a journalist, like a real journalist, not Vanity Fair. And I really liked that this book just kept me on my toes. It gave me that sort of nostalgia, even though it sort of focused on the horrific behaviour of the journalists in this book at the time. I can't really comment on the journalists in real life at that time because I don't know any of them, but I am going to say that the phone hacking scandal did not come out of nowhere. And I just like the sort of like 90s British can't be touched vibe that this book had. I think you were meant, I hope, to dislike the characters. I didn't like anyone. I suppose I liked maybe a small child who was in the book and was inoffensive, but everyone in this book is not a good friend. You don't want to be friends with them. They're not thoughtful, they're not considerate. They think only of themselves, of their goals, of what they want out of life. And they're not willing, or not unwilling, they're very willing to just step over anybody in order to get where they want in life. And I kind of like that. I was a little bit worried at the beginning, am I meant to like Becky? Because I don't like her. And I don't think I was meant to, based on her actions throughout the book. A very, very flawed character, kind of like a very terrified character. But even taking into account her fear, it doesn't justify what she did. There was also, I don't know if there was a reference in this book to the passing of a celebrity in reaction to the treatment they got from the press. I think that was supposed to sort of mirror the tragedy of Caroline Flack. There was quite a difference in time, whereas the rest of the stories, news stories, I suppose, inspired by real life, took place at the same time as their inspiration did, so I'm not super sure. Obviously, with the nature of this book, the news stories involved in it are not they're not the main meat of the story, but they are descriptive. And they're told in a kind of gossipy way, but it is important to know that there's a lot of trigger warnings for this book. The news stories, the big scoops that they have, follow some really harsh subjects, and they are not treated by the journalists with respect and care. And that's something that might be important to know. I had a good time with this book. I really enjoyed it, really enjoyed the author's writing, really enjoyed the unlikable characters, the way that this kind of mirrored real life. I don't know if the book was meant to somewhat mirror Rebecca Brooks, maybe? But it definitely was Vanity Fair inspired, maybe with like a little smidgen of real life. I will be back with an update on my other whatever I read next in a little bit. I have finished what will be my final book of this vlog. And I know what you're thinking, but that's only 3 books and you got 4. Yes, I don't have time to finish my 4th book. The books are due back tomorrow and I don't have time to read the last book, and somebody else wants to borrow it. So I have to take it back. So that means that I'm not going to be reading Your Driver is Waiting, which is a shame because I really wanted to read this. So I'm popping it back on my list of library books I want to read, and hopefully I will be able to get it another time. But the book that I did finish was Burning My Roti. I have flipped hands because I realised I was holding the book kind of off screen. This book is about what it's like to be a British Punjabi woman. I really enjoyed this book. It's not long, like it looks longer than it is because the font kind of, there's a lot of page between the words. So it was a very quick read, but I thought it was a very powerful read. I'm a white woman in Scotland. I don't know anything about growing up as a Punjabi woman. This author is lives in England, so I don't know anything at all about their experiences, and it was really interesting for me to learn. It wasn't just about this author. I believe she had a zine, and that's what this book has come out of, evolved into, but there were other people that she was interviewing, so there was a whole gaggle of lived experiences, which I really enjoy in a book like this, where I get to learn about people who have a different culture to my own. I like getting a more sort of well-rounded experience, and I thought this book was just very, very informative. And the writing style, this author's writing style, I really, really like. It's very conversational. It was like just having a chat with a friend, but at the same time, you're talking deep subjects, but in a very kind of somewhat light-hearted way. So there was nothing too like sad about subjects that should be quite upsetting. I actually feel that This book wasn't written for me, but I think that is why it was so important that I read it, because now I know a little bit more about other people and a little bit more about what it's like to be a person of colour, a queer person of colour in the UK. And it was very just eye-opening. There were, in addition to the gorgeous, gorgeous writing, there were a whole bunch of illustrations, which I really enjoyed. It was a visual feast as well as being a literary feast. I really enjoyed this book. I don't tend to give number ratings to nonfiction, especially if it's like a memoir or a book about an experience that somebody's had, because who am I to judge somebody's life? I mean, I can judge the writing style and the presentation, but that's only just part of the book. So I don't tend to rate nonfiction unless it's about like a certain topic that is unrelated to actual people and their experiences. So I haven't given this a rating, but I think if I was going to rate it, it would probably be like a 4-star maybe, but I don't know. It just feels kind of weird to rate somebody's experiences in life. That just seems harsh. I really liked the way that this kind of flipped from subject to subject. That is how I tend to have a lot of my conversations, where we will just go right on a tangent and then jump back to another subject. And that's something I enjoy with my friends and family, just jumping around from topic to topic. And I got that from this book too, which is just a little something that I think might be a little annoying to some people, but to me it was like, yes, this is how conversations are, blah blah blah, then we go here, then we come back here, then we go back here. It was just really enjoyable, and I think that this book could be a really interesting read. If you want to read it, I highly recommend it. I have read 3 of my library books, and I'm going to be taking them back today. This one, alas, unread, but I was going to say I had a really good time with the other 3, but I'm a liar because I didn't really like Soul Sisters. So I had success with these 2. And I think that's the beautiful thing about getting books from the library, where if I don't enjoy a book, it's fine. I mean, it's fine in life, but it's extra fine when it's a library book, because I haven't paid any money for it. Da-ding, prize. And if I read a book that I really enjoy and it's from the library, like, that's even more excellent. I'm going to take these back, and ideally my February library vlog is going to come up in February, because I know that my January one's probably coming up in February too, because I was just really busy with exams, fun things. I have a stress spot, that's great. I try to overcompensate by putting on way more highlighter than I think is necessary. Let me know if you've read any of these books, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!